but it's been good for me actually. I didn't think I liked logic until I started learning it. And now the problem is anyone that says anything illogical to me, I can't have a conversation with them. Anyhow, so normally what happens in this text, there's a debater, someone shows up and makes some kind of, gives us an idea, and it's slightly wrong. And then throughout the debate, we learn what was wrong about that idea to get to the correct idea. All right? And the debaters are not stupid. They're very, very smart. They're very cunning. And they bring up questions that normally come up in our minds anyhow. So what we're doing here is we're trying to define what is the speech of the Buddha. And we've been doing this for about half a year now.
At least.
And so when we say the speech of the Buddha, the argument we're in right now is, let's say we read a sutra, and it goes in, and you listen to it, and you memorize it, and then you hear those words in your head afterwards, and you're not yet a Buddha. I don't know who you are, but I'm not yet. And so if I hear the words of the Buddha in my mind, is that still considered the speech of the Buddha? Okay, so that's because it's not the direct speech because the Buddha's not speaking anymore, but it's in my head and I'm hearing those words. So does that count as the speech of the Buddha? And that's what we're trying to define. And it's a really profound question, actually, especially when it comes to those who are attracted to the diamond house. Because if you hear what you're hearing in your mind, could it potentially be the voice of a Buddha trying to teach you something? Okay, here we go. Question number one. Our debater, I just said that, our debater is trying to define the speech of the Buddha. And they claim that anything that is considered the speech of the Buddha must be in the mind of someone who has eliminated all the obstacles to Buddhahood. Is that true, and why or why not? And if you're going to answer the question, we have microphones in the room. Please speak into them so everyone at home can hear them. Sugan, can you toss gently or pass gently?
Excuse me, it's Mayor Sugan.
Excuse me, the mayor of Rimrock. It will soon become an incorporated town in Arizona when we vote.
Yeah, it's not a legal town, Sugan. I'll just let you know.
Yeah. So the mayor of Rimrock is going to answer our question.
The answer is no.
No, why?
Because I can think of the words of the Buddha, although I'm not free of obstacles yet. Otherwise, there is no such thing as the diamond house if it is not correct.
I don't think our debater goes there, but that's an interesting implication we can take to the debate.
Since you mentioned diamond house,
yes.
So I just continue the conversation.
Right.
If he was in diamond house, we wouldn't know.
Ooh. So, correct, yes. So someone can hear the words of the Buddha in their mind and not yet have removed all the obstacles to Buddhahood. Yay, good job. Number two, is it necessarily the case that the speech of the Buddha is in the mind of someone who has eliminated all their obstacles to Buddhahood? This is the opposite question. Anyone online? Repeat the question slower for the translators. Good job. Is it necessarily the case that the speech of the Buddha is in the mind of someone who has eliminated all their obstacles to Buddhahood?
If the speech of the Buddha is in your mind, are you a Buddha?
No.
No.
Because you could be memorizing the speech or thinking of the speech.
But that's still in the mind of a Buddha too.
All in addition, yeah.
Right, so this is the opposite logical way you can ask the question differently, and it's useful to ask it in the opposite way for your mind, to think of it this way. is it necessarily the case that if the speech is in your mind, that you have eliminated the obstacles? For some people, yes, but for some people, no. Right? Like me, I can hear the words in the mind, and I'm not yet a Buddha. Okay, number 3. This is a fun one. There's 3. We've defined about 4 months ago 3 types of speech of the Buddha. Okay, and then we're using the Heart Sutra, the example in the Heart Sutra. Excuse me? That was really fast. You don't get $100. The question is, there's 3 types of speech, and which one is exemplified primarily, mainly, to get out of the argument, mainly by Shariputra in the Heart Sutra. And can you grab the microphone and answer that again? There should be 2 floating around. One of our microphones has disappeared. We're fixing it. It's broken. Yay. We're upgrading it. I like that.
I think there's 3 kind of type.
3 types.
The first one is once I heard, and this is not recording in the sutra.
Okay.
So I think this is authorized by Buddha. The other one is the main text, which is directly from Buddha.
Correct.
And the last one is leso.
Well, it's not. You said it first, but you said it.
Shariputra is blessing from Buddha.
And what does that mean by blessing by the Buddha?
Oh, because Buddha is not speaking Heart Sutra. Mainly is a disciple Shariputra asking the question, and the Buddha is meditate to manipulate to student to have this talk.
Manipulate sounds like a really bad word, but I
It's okay.
Blessing. Okay, blessing.
get it. The Buddha's manipulating you, Gibson. And I think the Buddha was manipulating you because we have 3 vocab words that you just gave all 3 of them. So why don't you answer all 3 vocab words for us? Yeah, give him the microphone, yeah.
Sumbaka supposed to be direct speech from Buddha.
That's correct, yep.
And Jesu Nangwei Ga is follow the authorized by Buddha.
Correct, and what's the primary example?
Once I heard.
Correct, and what's it in Sanskrit for $50?
Whoa, $50.
No help, Stanley.
He just got $16.
No.
You got the first one, Evam. That's
Evam Svat. Maya Sutta.
$32.
Who wants to say the whole thing and get the rest of the money?
Eva Maya Shrutam.
What was that? Do that again,
Ben
Ben?
got it.
Evam Maya Shrutam.
Nice. Okay, let's repeat. Evam Maya Sutra.
Ben Kramer got $16.
I'll split it.
All of you,
Okay.
please send me your PayPal. Okay, and Gibson, the very last one. Microphone, please.
Blessing by Buddha.
Right, and what's the Tibetan? How do you say those words?
Jinkila Bega.
Good, very good, excellent, yay.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me open this up here. So this is where we stopped last time, and I think it'd be useful for us to go back through the first debate so we can know what the heck we're talking about. Okay. Okay, all right, cool.
Tim's going to explain. We're in the middle of debate, so he's going to catch us up.
Okay, so I'm not going to read it Tibetan. We're just going to go through it quickly. So Kachik, someone comes along someone smart like Gibson comes along and gives us a very slightly wrong idea. By the way, Gibson is really funny too. I didn't realize how very, very funny person. Like, no, but I mean that in like he's humorous. Like his jokes are incredible. So the Buddha the Kachi comes and says, look, he says, consider the speech of the Buddha in the 80,000 verses of the perfection of wisdom. Okay, which is a very long text, 80,000 verses, all right? And consider that speech in the mind of...
8,000.
Excuse me?
8,000.
8,000?
Yeah, get it.
Just kidding.
Yeah, okay.
8,000. It's still a lot of verses.
Okay.
You know, whatever. In the mind of the realized being Shariputra. So consider the perfection of wisdom in 8,000 verses in the mind of Shariputra. Okay. That speech of the Buddha that exists in the mind of Shariputra possesses the 60 qualities of the speech of a Buddha, which we talked about briefly last time, that there's 60 qualities that I think you taught in DCI.
Yeah, it's
64, actually.
64 or 62, 64. Yeah, we taught it in DCI. Yeah.
And so he's basically saying that speech of the Buddha has those qualities, which are in the mind of Shariputra. And the reason he gives is because they are the words of the Buddha. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and I'm going to say it in a sarcastic way. Okay. So we said, do you have to be a Buddha to have the Buddha speech in your mind? Yes or no? Then we say no. And then we say, well, what's an example? And we'll say, I don't know. Shariputra has the Heart Sutra in his mind. He spoke it. Okay. Okay, good. So here's our sarcastic response. That Heart Sutra in Shariputra's mind must have the 60 amazing intonations and other qualities of speech which only an enlightened being can give to their talk. Right? Like it's the manner, it's the intent, it's the style. Are you saying that in Shariputra's mind, there's 64 different amazing characteristics of that speech? Yes or no? In his head, in a non-Buddhist head, can there be those 64 qualities? We say no, then it's not Buddha speech.
This is the Kachik coming back to us to say
it's
that.
not bad. It's not a bad argument. We said, yes, everyone can have Buddha's speech in their mind. And he said, oh, then there must be those 64 qualities in their mind. Potential. Well, then a rock has 60. Okay.
Okay, and then the Kachi keeps going on even with a little bit of sarcasm by quoting the Dode Gyen, which is, what is that, Gibson? I asked you about this yesterday, that's why I didn't know how to translate it. All right, let's read it first. Could you give that to Dr. Chen? He's working on his doctorate degree. So starting here.
Here, okay. Calte, Dode, Gale, Yenle, Genle,
By the way, I want to hear pop, 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 pop.
Deshe Sunni, Tegyete,
Yeah, good.
Yanglak Juktu, Semikya, Sesum Beju, Chesum Beju.
Good. Okay. So he basically says this has to be true because would you translate the jewel of the sutras, or it's usually translated the ornament of
You
the...
could say the jewel of the sutras. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Who wrote the jewel of the sutras? Who wrote the Dode Gyen?
Master Asanga,
Master Asanga, and inspired by
Lord Maitreya.
Lord Maitreya, who is the future Buddha.
I like to say he was taking dictation.
So he's using an example from a book that was not yet written by or dictated by a Buddha. I find that interesting.
Now that's a huge debate.
Okay, well, let's not go there yet.
We're
Okay.
not going there.
All right, so
Okay.
this is how I translated it. Okay.
Okay.
This is the case because the Jewel Sutra states, the conqueror's speech is limitless, inconceivable in the 60 exquisite ways.
Yeah, good. The only thing I would shift is how you started it. How did you start
The
it?
conqueror's speech.
That is the case. It has to be more
Sarcastic.
emphatic.
Emphatic. Okay.
It's,
That is so the case.
Of course, that's the case.
Okay.
Okay. Remember the debate. The debate is, he said, look, you can have the Buddha's speech in your mind and not be a Buddha. Okay? Like if you memorize the Heart Sutra, you have the Buddha's speech in your mind, but you're not a Buddha. And then this guy came back and said, well, if you have the Buddha's speech in your mind, then that speech must have the 60 qualities of the Buddhist, the way the Buddha talks. And then we said, makyap, which means what? Look, that doesn't have to be true. I mean, you can have the Buddha's speech in your mind, and it doesn't have all the fine details of an actual enlightened being talking. It's still the Buddha's speech. And he says, well then, I guess Maitreya's wrong. Because Maitreya said the Buddha's speech always has those 64 qualities. Got it? Kyap. So it has to be, the kyap has to be more strong. It always has that. He said what? You can have the Buddha's speech in your mind and it's not have the 64, details of the way a Buddha talks. And then we said, well, I guess Maitreya's wrong. We said, why do you say that? Well, Maitreya defined the Buddha's speech as any speech which has those 64 qualities. Got it? Okay? All right.
So in the translation here, we would include that line where we say makyap and what it
Yeah.
actually says, and then come back with his.
Yeah,
retort.
now a challenge of all of these debate texts is that not all of the answers are written down. Okay? You're only hearing half the debate sometimes. It's understood. It's not written down. Okay? What do you mean? We said it's possible to have a Buddhist speech in your mind and not be a Buddha. Okay? It's not necessarily the case that you have to be a Buddha. And he said, well, of course it is. And we said, why? And he said, because if it's the Buddha's speech, it has to be spoken like the way the Buddha talks it. And a non-Buddha can't do that. You can memorize the Heart Sutra, but you're not going to say it the way the Buddha said it, Okay, got it? You can't recite the Heart Sutra the way it was spoken by Lord Buddha, who at the same moment was observing the effect of that sutra for the next billion years. You can't talk it. You can't speak it that way. You can memorize it, but you are not giving it the flavor of a person who can see a billion years ahead what the effect of this Heart Sutra is going to be. You see what I mean? There's a difference, right? So can you memorize the Buddha speech? I just explained why you couldn't. Okay. All right. By the way, we go and get the quotation in the original book by Maitreya. And we can do that because of John Brady's work, okay? So we went and got it. By the way, talking about John Brady's work, Nick, it's a good segue.
Perfect. I will pull it up.
Okay, listen. We have input operators around the world working for John Brady's project. They have worked for 37 years in some and we put those data entry centers